So when this opportunity came around, it was cool to think about delivering concepts of science and anatomy and physiology and biology to people who are not necessarily thinking about science in the primary literature type of way. It was a challenge, really. It was really apparent that the folks who were entering these classes were really looking for a career change. To improve their lives in such a way is such a cool thing to be a part of. So when this whole discussion about how do we make it so that students can perform better in these biology courses in anatomy and physiology was pitched, it's like, yeah, contextualizing is a good way to do that. Coming off of being in research and teaching biology, it was easy to just deliver the material, right? And I mean, I was excited about the material. I mean, I love thinking about biology in general, right? But the shift happened when I started to, justify the stuff that I was delivering for students who are going to a healthcare field, right? So in the Biology 160, which is our intro bio course, what I did is to take each chapter that I was presenting throughout the quarter and introduce the chapter with a big picture idea about why we were doing the things that we were doing. Yes, it's difficult to reorganize your lectures, reorganize the pitch that you have for the different concepts that you want to deliver and have people be interested in and understand. But it's also difficult, at least it was for me, to think about the topics in that way, right? Because in many ways, I no longer could just be coming into the classroom and thinking, let's just think about the DNA molecule. I had to justify the material way more so that it could become interesting to the people in the classroom.
General biology covers so many things, so many areas, and we were able to have conversations about things like what would be most applicable, and what comes to mind is, for example, the movement of molecules, and oftentimes the movement of molecules and osmosis, diffusion and facilitated diffusion, those topics. There's not a whole lot of time spent on that, but that is very, very relevant to nursing. I suggested that more time be spent on that topic just because it did underlie so many other mechanisms down the road that students were going to be learning, not only in their higher prerequisite courses, but then in the clinical setting as a nurse too.
You're building a framework across all the different levels that the students are going through, whether it is introductory math or advanced microbiology courses, to keep them engaged and keep them thinking about it and not lose sight of where they're going, right? Because they're in here to be a healthcare provider, and if that keeps being repeated over time, they stay engaged and they stay motivated. That
part to me is very exciting, to be able to bring something like that to an instructor who has the depth of knowledge in terms of how the heart works and how the blood vessels work, but then to say, well, this is what happens clinically.
Long demonstration. Why don't you guys get closer so that you can see this, see what happens.
Many of us who are teaching to healthcare students already do a lot of contextualizing. Right? We realize that that's important for students to have, to stay interested, but then to have the infrastructure by the college to support that. And it's a massive undertaking to do this kind of delivery of work for these healthcare track students. It's super important to do that. It's super important to have the community involved. Super important to have all of these parts in place. To learn how to work with a group of folks that is working a lot, right? They are coming into the classroom after many hours of being at work. Some people were spending 17 hours at their job overnight, and then coming into my classroom, right? Meeting those people and getting them to be interested in science and be interested in these topics that they have to know in order to do well in nursing school is hard to do. But ultimately, people getting into the next step that they're going. Right? We're here to help people go on to the next stage in their lives educationally, and getting those emails from students who I wrote a letter for. I'd be like, hey, I got into nursing school. I got into physical therapy school. That stuff is cool. Yeah, it's like, wow, that's a really direct impact on somebody's life, right? Yeah, for sure. I could spend my life publishing, and that's cool too, right? But the metric of impact on somebody's life is a little different. Yeah. Stepping up to really help with the undertow that these folks are dealing with in a general, day-to-day basis. Yeah, the work, the money, the childcare issues, the lack of being in a classroom for so long. I think it's made me a better instructor in many ways. Yeah, it's made me softer in some ways, but also more able to deliver concepts more readily. Yeah.